Welcome back to Trillium Talk and our weekly look at what's been going on at Queen's Park with our team of reporters at the Trillium. It was budget day in Ontario on Thursday, and here to break it all down for us is our editor-in-chief at the Trillium, Jessica Smith-Cross. Welcome back, Jess. I guess next to elections, budget day is right up there.
Absolutely. I love a good budget. It's the whole day of staring at numbers and trying to make sense of them. It's actually a lot of fun.
Words I have never uttered. I love a good budget. Okay, Jess, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the budget, I wonder if you could maybe take us behind the scenes and maybe walk us through what happens if you're a reporter covering budget day.
Yeah, it is. It actually is fun for, I think, most of us. It used to be that we were all actually sort of locked up. There was a big room where we'd all go and we'd get the budget and we'd furiously read and write. Back in the day, pre-pandemic days, we had no access to the internet either. So anything you need to know is background information you've got to bring in there. If you will indulge me for a quick story, I did a budget right before I was about to give birth to my son. And there was a backup plan for the OPP to escort me to hospital should I go into labor that day. Fortunately, he waited just a few days. I caught the deadline. But today it's a little different. We still do a lockup, but you can do that in your office at Queen's Park. And some reporters can even do it remotely from home. You have to sign a very serious undertaking, a promise to not share the contents of the budget with anyone before the Minister of Finance tables it. But we're professionals and nobody breaks that. And so you spend the day going over the document. There's an electronic version of it now. Trying as fast as you can to understand what's in it. We had a few experts on our team. So these are people with experts in finance. So it was the province's former financial accountability officer and the former provincial chief economist. Sort of helped us. They wrote columns on it. They also told us, how to interpret the numbers and to make sense of things and put everything in some really good context. We had a few reporters from the local village media outlets come and help us out because there's just so much to go through, going through all of the important things for all of the communities that we have readers in. So a bunch of reporters, experts, pouring through this document, trying to make sense of it and try to get everything written by 4 o'clock, which is when in the House, the Minister of Finance stands up and starts his budget speech, and then we can send our stories out to the world.
All right, great stuff. Thanks for that peek behind the curtain. Okay, let's get to the meat of this, to the budget itself. What were the big takeaways? Any big announcements from Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy?
Big takeaways. So they're projecting a deficit of almost $15 billion. This wasn't what the plan was supposed to be like a year ago. But with Trump's tariffs and everything that's going on, they're now projecting a pretty significant deficit again for this year to come. As for big takeaways, this government has had a pattern where they like to announce the big things before the budget. They don't cram them all into one day. I guess people pay more attention if they're sort of slow rolled out as we go up to the budget. So if you've heard of things like the gas tax cut that they have been putting in temporarily year after year recently, it will become just permanent. So you won't notice a change because this is something that has been in place, but it will be. They're committing to it permanently, taking the tolls off the government-owned portion of the 407. There was an announcement of a tax credit for people doing fertility treatments, but that was also announced ahead of time. Some of the other promises include things for businesses to help them get through the pandemic. So there's like a manufacturing investment tax credit, and there's a fund that the government will have to sort of last chance bail out firms that are particularly impacted by the tariffs should things get worse or if that comes to pass.
All right, let's talk about the tariffs. Jess, what impact have they had on the economy in Ontario, and what does the Ford government say the forecast looks like?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. The government has to put together all of these economic forecasts. But then when we got a chance to ask like the Deputy Minister of Finance, this top civil servants about this, sort of the answer was, well, we still don't actually know. We got to put things together. We got to put a baseline for a budget. But the way they built the budget is 3 different scenarios. This sort of middle path, if things are worse than we expect, and if things are better than we expect. And so they redo the numbers depending on how things actually shake out. The middle path that they're talking about doesn't see a deficit coming, though it is a lot slower economic growth than we've been used to.
All right, let's talk about opposition parties. I'm sure Marit Stiles, Bonnie Crombie, and Mike Schreiner all weighed in following the budget. What did they have to say about it? Any highlights?
None are impressed. You might be surprised to know that none of the opposition parties voiced their full-throated support of the budget. So some specific concerns are about what wasn't paid a lot of attention to in the budget. There hasn't been a lot. There's not any good news on housing. The government had made a big promise to build 1.5 million homes to sort of break up this housing gap and make housing less expensive. There was a lot of criticism that there's nothing in there that's going to do that, despite a recently introduced housing bill. Other criticism is just the overall restraint in funding. So funding for like healthcare and education in the coming years is projected at least to be less than the pace of inflation. Those increases are going to be less than inflation is, even though inflation is still low. So it's sort of like a real cut. So that was one of their criticisms. The general theme has been that this government is spending a lot of money because it is running deficits and spending more even than the days of the Kathleen Wynne government, but the opposition parties say that they're not spending it well. That's a way they can sort of have their cake and eat it too. You're not spending enough on the things we care about, but you're spending too much money all at the same time.
There's Editor-in-Chief at the Trillium, Jessica Smith-Cross, on the provincial budget that was tabled on Thursday. Thanks as always, Jess. Great job on this. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend.
You too, Scott.
Become a Trillium Insider today and never miss a minute of the action at Queen's Park. Sign up at thetrillium.ca. For all of us at Village Media, enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Thanks for watching.